It's a pleasure to have you join us on today's episode of 360 Health. I am Ogechukwu Ukekwe. The World Health Organization has launched a new platform providing cost-free cancer medication for thousands of children living in low and middle-income countries. In a bid to improve lagging survival rate, the first medicines were being delivered to Mongolia, the WHO said, with further shipment planned for Ecuador, Jordan, Nepal, and Zambia. As part of the project's pilot phase, the treatments are expected to reach around 5,000 children with cancer this year across at least 30 hospitals in those 6 nations. The WHO said that childhood cancer survival rates in low and middle-income countries were often below 30% compared with around 80% in high-income countries. A further 6 countries have been invited to join the platform, which hopes to reach 50 countries in the next 5 to 7 years, providing medicines for approximately 120,000 children. And as part of efforts to reduce mortality and infant mortality rates, Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu says the Renewed Hope initiative procured 60,000 professional kits comprising scrubs and crocs for midwives to support the ongoing federal government retraining of 120,000 health workers. She said the donation by an anonymous donor is to support the midwives in reducing infant and maternity mortality and morbidity. Tinubu spoke during the 29th General Assembly of the Organization of African First Ladies for Development in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Senior Special Assistant on Media to the First Lady Busola Koyi revealed this in a statement. She signed titled First Lady Oluremi Tinubu addresses 29th Oxford General Assembly as a new member of the steering committee. She reaffirmed her commitment to advocacy, resource mobilization, and fostering partnership to close the gender gaps and boost women's and youth empowerment in Nigeria. And the federal government and Bayelsa State have partnered with Zipline to global leaders in drone logistics to improve the state's medical supply chain. Minister of Health Mohammed Pate and the Governor Doyu Diri officially opened Zipline State-of-the-Art Distribution Center in Yenagoa. This center will serve as an operational hub, enabling rapid medical deliveries across the state, reaching even the most remote areas. Since starting operation in Bayelsa in 2023, Zipline has delivered over 1 million vaccine doses and 71,000 kits of essential medicines, expanding its reach to 73 of state's 83 wards. Zipline drones ensure timely on-demand delivery, enhancing healthcare access in Bayelsa challenging terrain. Pate and Governor Diri emphasized the transformative role of Zipline's technology in improving healthcare access, especially for hard-to-reach community. Aki Odindure of Zipline Nigeria highlighted the company's commitment to strengthening the nation's health system through innovation and collaboration. We'll go on a short break and the program will return shortly. Welcome back. Osteoarthritis, often considered an inevitable consequence of aging, affects millions worldwide, yet its impact is often downplayed or misunderstood. This degenerative joint disease, which causes the gradual breakdown of cartilage, leads to pain, stiffness, and a diminished ability to move freely. For many elderly individuals, it represents not just physical discomfort, but a major shift in how they live their daily lives. However, at the Afe Babalola University Multi-System Hospital, an innovative approach to osteoarthritis care is offering hope and relief, creating a pathway for patients to experience life beyond their pain. While joining me on the program to discuss further is neurophysiotherapist clinical gait analysis, Professor Sam Ibeneme. Thank you for joining us on the program. So what would you say is osteoarthritis and how does it differ from other types of arthritis?
Well, osteoarthritis is a very common type of arthritis that occurs mainly as a result of degeneration of the cartilages of the bones. These are soft endings that you find in the bones that look like rubber, they cushion the impact of the bones when they touch or when they move around the joints. Because for you to move your body, move your knees, bend it or flex it, your bones have to move. And at the point where you have the joints, these cartilages are located as rubber-like structure at the end of these bones, and they the effect, and there is a lubricating fluid in between them. So it makes it easy for bones to move without necessarily touching each other. But in osteoarthritis, this rubber-like structure that cushion the movement and ensure that there is no hitches, they get degenerated, and therefore the bones begin to touch each other, and that leads to pain. Most times, bone spurs are formed, and the surrounding tissues are also affected. So this leads to pain, joint mobility dysfunction or mobility limitations. And this is quite different from other types of arthritis like osteoarthritis, which like rheumatoid arthritis, which occurs as a result of some autoimmune factors that brings about inflammation at various joints. In the case of rheumatoid arthritis, this is effect both sides of the body. It has a symmetrical presentation. So if one hand is affected, a joint of one hand or the wrist joint of left side is affected, you have a tendency also to see it on the joint of the wrist hand, on the wrist joint of the other hand. So there is a symmetrical presentation in rheumatoid arthritis, but in osteoarthritis, only one side is affected, not both sides at the same time. So there are a lot of differences, but the common presentation for osteoarthritis is that it is brought about by wear and tear of the joints over time, which begins to affect these rubber-like structures, what we call the cartilages, and wear them off. And then the bone-to-bone contact is not helping in that situation because it's bound to occur with the formation of bone spurs being a critical presentation. And then you have pains, inflammation around the joints, redness of that area, feels so warm and hot, and then very, very discomforting for the patients.
What would you say are the common risk factors for developing this kind of arthritis, and how can it be managed or prevented?
The most common risk factors for osteoarthritis, especially in our climate, includes weight. And of course, when an individual gains so much weight that it is in excess of what the body bone structures can carry, we tend to say that such a person is obese or overweight. In some cases, even morbid obesity. So the weight is so much that it begins to become a problem. And that increases the stress experienced by the joints of the body, especially the weight-bearing joints. So weight is a critical factor that enables and facilitates the incidence of osteoarthritis in individuals within our society, and of course globally. Another important contributor is aging. As people age, the tendency for you to have osteoarthritis also increases. And so aging is a very important risk factor for that. Another one is injuries, joint injuries. So when there are joint injuries, traumas around the joint, falls with the knees or hands or any other joints that are most prone to osteoarthritis, once they are affected and once they are exposed to such injuries, the tendency to trigger osteoarthritis is high in such situations. And then repetitive activities that exposes the joints of the body to stress is also a critical factor. And these are some of the important factors that can predispose to osteoarthritis, apart from genetic factors as well. So there are some genetic factors that are linked to osteoarthritis, and sometimes you see that there is a family history of osteoarthritis where it occurs in individuals. So these are some of the things to look out for.
So can osteoarthritis be cured, or is it a condition that requires long-term management?
Osteoarthritis cannot be cured as of now. However, osteoarthritis can be managed using various combination of therapies and strategies. There is no cure, and it cannot be reversed, but its progress can be minimized. Yes, there are ongoing disease-modifying therapies that are being developed right now, but they're not commonly available. We are still at, very young stage of availability and development. However, the key interventions available in dealing with osteoarthritis involve one, lifestyle modification, which is very critical. And this entails adjusting one's lifestyle to ensure a healthy weight all the time. And this may require engaging in regular physical activity and dietary modifications to ensure that the affected individual, or those who are at risk of having such, do not pick up weights and therefore do not um, predispose themselves to factors that may lead to osteoarthritis. So eating a healthy, balanced diet and exercising is very important and key, because it helps to support the joints and helps to build the muscles, strengthen the muscles, which is important in supporting the joints and supporting the bones and ensuring that the wear and tear are minimized. Another important factor that is considered in dealing with osteoarthritis could be medication. In managing it, especially the symptoms of pain and inflammation that may require being placed on medication by the healthcare provider. Such medications like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which has some side effects when taken for too long, and that is why it's important that these drugs are properly prescribed. Over-the-counter medication or self-medication is discouraged in such instance. Too much of it can lead to liver damage and some vital organs of the body, which may also affect the kidney. So that is why it's important to emphasize this point. And then some part of waste management may also warrant, intra-joint injections. You may be giving some injections not to minimize it, like corticosteroid injections. These are known to have potent effect in bringing temporary relief of such inflammatory tendencies and pains around the affected joints. And of course, you need to know that the joints that are mostly affected are joints of the knee, joints of the hip, and joints of the spine. Most times that of the hands also are affected by osteoarthritis. So injections can be also given in such situations. And it's also important that such people can be managed using proper footwear. Such proper footwear may entail inserts, providing inserts in those footwears that alleviates and minimizes stress experienced by the joints. It is important to note that not all footwears are good for walking. Some footwears are not good for walking. Some footwears are not good for, other types of activities. like high impact physical activities like jumping and so on and so forth. So it's important that individuals know the type of footwear they utilize for different type of activities, because sometimes footwears are also incriminated, especially high-heeled shoes are also known to trigger very, high ground reaction forces. These are compressive forces exerted on the body by the ground or supporting surface as we walk on them. So when we use high heel shoes, it changes the biomechanics, the structure, and the function of the foot itself. And it is very adverse because the forces it generates have a reverse impact on the human body and compresses the joints, squeezes them, and enhances the wear and tear. So high heel shoes is a critical factor, and that's why women seem to be highly predisposed to osteoarthritis as a result of that. So this all comes under lifestyle modification and biomechanical management. And these realms lies in the realms of physiotherapy. And the intervention that could help, of course, is physiotherapy intervention. And that is why physiotherapy comes, they do biomechanical analysis to understand if there are other behavioral and environmental factors related to osteoarthritis onset in the individual. And then have to modify the shoe wears and so on and so forth. And then provide exercises that are personalized, that support the joints, enhance the muscle strength and functionality or mobility of the joint itself, so and increase flexibility around them. So these are things that physiotherapists also can do in such situations. So there are a number of interventions that can help to alleviate the impact of osteoarthritis in the affected individual. And physiotherapy has a whole lot of them. They have electrotherapy interventions that we also elicit the expression within the cells of of analgesic of molecules that have analgesic properties, or anti-inflammatory properties. So the same effect that drugs we also give, like drugs like Panadol we give, like drugs like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs we give. So the same impact is elicited by electrotherapy modalities, but they don't have any side effect unlike the drugs. So you have such long-term management that will help to alleviate the symptoms. So in essence, overall, long-term management of osteoarthritis is always prescribed and recommended, and this revolves around what I have discussed in the past few minutes.
So how does age influence the likelihood of developing osteoarthritis, and are there preventive measures that can be taken early in life?
Yes, age is a critical factor for osteoarthritis, like I mentioned before, because osteoarthritis occurs as a result of wear and tear around the joints that affect the cartilages. And so these wear and tear accumulate over the ages, over the years. And therefore, the impact gets more and more amplified as one gets older. So it is important that as young as an individual is, he begins to think of the future and therefore begins to adopt lifestyles that will not create that accumulation of biomechanical changes in the environment around the joints that may predispose to osteoarthritis. Like I have mentioned, if you eat healthy, maintain a healthy weight, and then have a culture of engaging in physical activity, enhances flexibility, enhances the muscle strength that supports the joints, and then always engage in activities that do not predispose the joints to high stress and strain that could bring about such kind of damages. We call them low impact physical activity. That is very critical, and it is better than high impact physical activity. When we talk about low impact physical activity, we're talking about something like brisk walking that does not really compress the joint or put stress on the joints of the body. But when you talk about high impact, you talk about things like jumping and so on and so forth. So you see, athletes who engage in high impact sports may be predisposed to them. But like I said, it's give or take. You have to always balance this out. If you must do them, then you wear footwears that helps to absorb this type of stress around the joints. So if one does the right thing and tries to protect themselves from engaging in repetitive movements that increases the stress around the joint and therefore wear and tear around the joint structures, it will provide some kind of protective effect over the ages, over the years. As one ages, it gives them more protection, as the case may be. But where this is not adhered to, then age, you will find it, age will become a factor, you know. And of course, you know that with aging, there are changes in the muscle structure. There are also changes in the bone structure. And these changes are not desirable in any case. And they tend to also aggravate the experiences and the symptoms of osteoarthritis. With aging, for instance, you have low bone mineral density, and therefore the bones are more prone to fractures in such situations and are no longer as strong as they should be. The impact, the ability to withstand impact, therefore, is diminished. So the tendency for osteoarthritis to occur when you overload the joints is higher because the bone mineral density has diminished to a very reasonable extent. And then there is muscle atrophy or lack of muscle mass or loss of muscle mass, actually. And that loss of muscle mass or bulkiness of the muscle means that the muscle strength is not sufficient to support the bones around the joint in order to ensure that they don't compress each other. So when the bones are not, supported to remain in the appropriate, to maintain the skeletal structures in the appropriate position, they may go out of position, begin to rub against each other, and bring about the degeneration of the cartilages, exposing the bones, and the bones suffer some wear and tear when they come in contact with each other. So these are some of the issues that could be associated with aging, and that explains why aging is a very critical factor that triggers osteoarthritis. And like I have said, starting early to avoid all this is what will help to protect against the impact of aging. For the women, especially the young ladies who have a penchant for using high heel shoes, wearing high heel shoes all the time, this is an important information that they need to apply if they must really get over if they must escape the impact of aging, which will come from the habitual use of high heel shoes. This is not good for them, and it has biomechanical consequences it must be factored in if you need to mitigate the impact of aging in such kind of population.
So at Afe Babalola University Multisystem Hospital, a groundbreaking approach to this type of arthritis have been provided. So what's your take on this?
Well, Afro University have done some very reasonable research studies. Their research team, I know, is led by their Deputy Chief Medical Director, Dr. Akinola Akimade. And this team have done something quite ingenious. They conducted studies that demonstrated the impact of a particular molecule and its relationship with the severity of osteoarthritis. And therefore, in the prediction of osteoarthritis, rather, and this is the serum cartilage oligometric matrix protein. They were able to demonstrate that the serum cartilage oligometric matrix protein, which we call the COMB, is associated with the tendency for osteoarthritis. When the concentration of this people is very high in the blood, it has some connection with eventual onset of osteoarthritis. It's an early warning signal because in those individuals where this serum concentration has been found to be high, in those individuals, osteoarthritis is also predicted more accurately over time. And therefore, they demonstrated the diagnostic utility of COMP in identifying individuals who are likely to be predisposed to osteoarthritis early enough. And that now creates more like a warning system, warning signal that enables the clinicians and the individuals involved to start early to implement strategies that will prevent onset of osteoarthritis. And therefore, it is a very welcome development, especially considering the fact that osteoarthritis has no cure as at now.
Well, neurophysiotherapy clinical gait analysis, Professor Sam Ibeneme, thank you for lending your thoughts on the program. And that wraps up our program for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.